Michael Malice here. Let that be your welcome for the next hour. We have with us a very special guest, direct from Los Angeles, Ethan Suplee, star of stage and screen. You have more face credits to your IMDb than I don't even know what. It's like 50 things.
There's a lot of things, yeah.
You've been a working actor your entire life.
My entire life since I was born.
Were you like a baby model, like a Gerber baby?
I was 17.
But you were, when you were on playing the bully, you were 17?
17, yeah.
Oh, how old were you playing, though, on the show? Or it's indeterminate?
I think I was held back a few grades. Oh. That's how I rationalized it. But I think if we went literally, that bully was meant to be 15, maybe.
How did you get into acting then?
My parents were actors. They went to school for acting in Pittsburgh at Carnegie Mellon. And they were in the drama department, and then came to New York and did theater here for a long time. And then I was born, and they quit acting because it was inappropriate for children, that world. But my entire life, I grew up, we had cats named Stanley and Stella, and Tennessee Williams plays were what my mom would read to me. And so I was always interested in it from that perspective. But when I quit school at 14, I kind of had no direction at all and got in trouble for a few years, and then went what can I do? I don't know how to do anything. I guess I'll be an actor. I mean,
it seems like it would be a lot easier. There's a lot of other jobs that are easier to break into than acting.
Yes, if you know how to do something.
Okay, hold on. Those who can do, those who can't teach, those who can't do anything, act.
That's right.
So, I mean...
But I will defend it by saying...
It worked out.
It worked out, but also... If I ever have to know how to do something for my job of acting, I do go deep in learning that thing. So I have learned to do lots of things that might not even be necessarily shown in the acting work I'm doing. But if that is part of the character, I will go off and learn how to do that.
This is just a little sidebar. This is something that drives me crazy about education, because so many people who are interested in learning, as you clearly are, the system that we have is not right for them. So 14, you're dropping out. Yet at the same time, up to your current age, you're excited to learn things and learn new skills. It's just such a disconnect, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
So what made you drop out of school at such a young age? And what did your parents think?
They weren't happy about it.
Yeah.
They were not happy about it at all. As I would not be happy if any of my kids decided to drop out at a young age.
That's really young.
I was an unruly kid. Yeah, I was an anarchist, and I was not going to listen to anyone from a position of authority, and I was going to just do what I wanted to do. And I don't know if in the long run I'm glad I didn't do that, but I always regretted not going to college, because many of the books I like reading now, I assume I would have read in college.
Yeah, but the thing is, I wrote an essay for Thought Catalog years ago, making the case against teaching Shakespeare in school.
Right.
Because when you're at that age and you're having someone walk you through it, it makes you feel like you don't know how to read, because it's like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Whereas when you're older and you can learn it for yourself, you have life experience, you bring your own interpretation to a project. So a lot of times for me, reading a book in that setting made me hate it.
Right.
Because now I'm reading it with someone over my shoulder walking me through it.
Yeah. When constantly telling you how your interpretation is wrong or invalid or whatever. Yeah, I guess that's part of it. Yeah.
So, I mean, how was this? Tell me about dropping. I don't know anyone who's dropped out that young. Where were you living at the time?
I still lived with my parents. I mean, I didn't spend a lot of time there, but I didn't properly live anywhere else. I had punk rocker friends and just living in Hollywood and doing, being outside of my house as much as possible at a young age and outside of school.
But did you sit them down and you were like, you know what, Mom, Dad, I'm dropping out of school. And they're like, what, can you just be gay?
They probably would have preferred that.
Of course.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever put it in those terms. I just stopped going.
Oh, so you didn't even go through you're just like, screw this.
Yeah. And there was a point where, they threatened force of getting me back in, and I just said, well, I'll get emancipated then. But I don't know that I would have gone through with that, but I think it kind of settled down when they realized there is an avenue for a kid who has had enough to get out of having that kind of force imposed on them.
So what are you doing 14 through 17? I mean, did you were still your friends weren't in school either?
No, my friends all pretty much stayed in school. What was I doing? A lot of like, juvenile delinquent type stuff.
I mean,
really.
So was this fun? It must be fun at the time.
At the time, it was fun. It was more fun than going to school, which was the alternative at the time. Right now, I have no desire to go back to participating in those activities.
What were some of your hangouts? Like, this is Hollywood back in the day, right? What were some of your hangouts back then?
There was a club called Maryland's.
Okay.
Which
wait, from the culture club person?
I don't know who started it, but it was a club specifically for people under 21.
Oh,
which was great.
Okay,
I could go there and not have a problem.
Did they serve alcohol?
I don't think so.
Okay,
but we drank in the parking lot.
Okay, sure.
There was the Anti Club on Melrose, the Reseda Country Club, or was it the Sherman Oaks Country Club? I don't know. We used to go see shows at a place that was just like a box theater.
Yeah,
that was called the Country Club. Wasn't really much of a country club. There was a gothic club called Helter Skelter that stayed around into the 90s, long after I had given up that scene.
So what made you decide to like ship up and fly right?
I don't know. It got to a point where I was sick of doing that and I wanted to do something else. And I, in Hollywood, the entertainment industry is so revered and kind of the ne plus ultra of aspirational things to do. And so I thought I'll give that a shot. And I went to acting class for 1 year and kind of got frustrated with that system of schooling, which it was, where it was like, here's my idea on this, or my interpretation, or my understanding of this. And then you have a teacher telling you how you're wrong, basically, which was just school again. And I thought, fuck this. Am I allowed to say fuck, Michael?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought,
not fuck Michael, but you can say fuck.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought fuck this, and I thought I'm going to learn acting from trying to actually do it, not from a teacher who's not doing it. From actually being immersed in that industry. And my first audition, I got to play that bully. That was the first role I got.
I have a friend who is very, very fit now. And in high school, he was fat, right? So I always call him FIHS, fat in high school, because in his head, he will always be that fat kid in high school, right?
Sure.
When you're well-read, smart, we've had many conversations. Is there always a part of you that's kind of insecure because you dropped out of high school and think people are judging you?
Always.
It's weird, right?
Always. And though I have my entire life, I have 4 kids, and I think the biggest aspiration as a parent is to not impose the things I detested as a kid on my kids as a parent. So you're constantly battling this perspective of, well, I know as a kid I didn't like that, so I'm going to try to not do that to my kid. And honestly, I fall into the trap all the time of, this is my dad. This is how my dad acted. But I have a very tangible desire for my kids to go to college. And here we are in New York, and my oldest is in college, and she's doing very well here. I have another kid in college in Boston, and so that seems to be happening. And I hope that it's just that they are different than me. And at the same time, I think school's bullshit, and I don't know what the fuck they're actually learning there. You know what I mean? So I'm very conflicted about all of this, but I regret not finishing school, not going to college, not getting a master's in philosophy. I really do regret that. There's nothing I can do about it, though.
I would have thought if I'm 17 in Hollywood, if I don't look like a Ken doll, there's no way I'm going to be able to make it as an actor. Was this not something that's going through your head? Like, I would think it's just for like these like superhumanly beautiful people.
Yeah, I mean, there is definitely that, but then there's also the idea that there are niches.
I think it's both.
Yeah, okay, good. So I said it right twice.
Nietzsche.
Yeah, there's niches where you gotta. There's gotta be some place for someone like me. So,
but you realize that at 17.
I don't think I gave a shit.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
Yeah, I just think I was like, well, I'm going to try this out. You know, I'm interested in it. I've always been interested in it. It's fun. Make believe is fun. Fantasy is fun. I like that. So I'm going to try it out. And it seems to have worked. But there is a lot. I was fat my whole life. I was basically born over 10 pounds and being told that always as a kid, it was like, well, I was a fat baby at birth. I was fat. So then I'm just fat. I never competed for anything. There was never a point in my life where it was like, that guy has stuff and is getting stuff, attention, whatever it is, because he's good looking. He was so removed from that group of people, was so removed from any part of my reality that it was just like, we're playing two utterly different games. So if I'm going to go and act, I'm not going to be competing with them. It's got to be something different.
If there was one actor you would say is kind of someone you emulate, like kind of a role model figure, who would that be?
Peter Lorre.
Why is that?
I just think his character work was amazing, and I love everything he's done. I'm just a huge fan of his and have always looked up to him.
What's your favorite role of his?
M.
So you land the Wonder Years.
Yeah.
Big, huge show. I mean, lasted a long time. When you're playing a bully and you're like with like Fred Savage, who's like 4'11", he's like my size. But coming from that kind of like street background, was that something that must have been easy to channel? Well, but it must have been something you also resented as an anarchist. Anarchists hate bullies.
Yes. Okay. I never could identify with a bully.
Okay.
But the thing that I found to be interesting was that bully had a little bit of nuance to him. So typically you get a bully who's just bad, even if at some point during the arc of the show, you're going to find out why they're a bully. They're abused by their father or something. There's some reason. This guy was, he liked poetry and he was sensitive. And so it was easier in that sense to kind of relate to this character,
One of your biggest roles is American History X.
Yes.
We just talked a bit about it at lunch. So tell me about that. When you're doing a film like that, did you know from the time you got the script that this is going to be this kind of touchstone, like major cultural picture?
Well, as a kid liking punk rock, there were many shows that I would go to and people like that would show up. There was a gang called War White Aryan Resistance and we would fight them, so it was super real to me. Now, that was when I was like 13, 14 years old. By the time we do American History X, I'm no longer seeing that because I'm not going to punk rock shows really anymore. And I just thought, there is this thing exists, this idea that we're going to go and fuck up these anti-racists who are trying to express, an idea of liberty and freedom at a punk rock show and individualism, right? And so I thought that was important, that because it existed for me as a kid, I thought it was important to shine a light on, hey, we're in fucking Hollywood. And, I didn't see much of it in Hollywood. They would come up from Orange County. That was what I knew. But there's an element of really scary hatred in Orange County coming up to fucking harass us at this kind of like, whatever the 90s version of a hippie was, I guess. I don't like hippies because I think they stink, but that kind of like
Soundgarden stuff.
No, well, okay.
No?
Let's.
Oh man! Did I just push a button? That look on your face! Oh my god!
Come on!
Oh my god!
Come on!
I'm trolling
Michael?
even when I don't want to troll. Holy
this is
shit!
Like the Butthole Surfers and Black Flag. This is like real punk rock. Soundgarden.
I'm dying. Oh my god! That look.
You just saw it. Oh my god! This is what it's gonna be. That was Seattle, dude.
I know, but like, okay.
I'm talking about Operation Ivy. And,
okay.
And, punk rock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This. You guys probably haven't heard of it. Yeah. No, that's the real stuff.
Yeah. So I thought it was important in that sense. I don't know how important I thought it might have been for society, because society certainly wasn't getting harassed at punk rock shows. This was a small group of people.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, I wasn't seeing marches, but it existed, and I thought it was important to shine a light on it. And so I was super excited. Now, that's a really interesting and tricky thing too, because in order to be a good actor, I think there can be something done in a caricature-y way or in a cartoonish way, and you lose some element of humanity to it. And by doing that to that group of people, you actually separate them further and make them less real. And the idea is like, make them real so you can understand them, so you can stop them.
Yeah, because they're a real danger.
Yeah.
So do you protect cartoons? There's a fly. Wile E. Coyote's not actually going to hurt you. These people hurt people.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's kind of fallen away because of the internet. But like you were saying, they would come to these shows with the intent to fuck people up.
Yeah, that was why they were there.
Yeah.
They wanted to fight. They wanted to cause a problem. And so the idea that could be more useful in the public discourse, I found valuable. And I think it was. And then as I continued to grow up, I think it got to be a smaller and smaller group of people, which is great.
So you had to actually work with them as preparation for this role.
I mean, yes, we had meetings, and the hardest thing is the message from these people that you want to shine a light on is hate, right? So if we're just going to do hate, that's fine. But it's coming from a person. And if you make him a cartoon character, then I think you take some of his power away. By making him a real person, he's actually more powerful. And that's important to know, that this guy with the message of hate is powerful. Whatever his power is comes from his humanity. And so it is tricky because and I think I had it easiest because my role was the most cartoonish in that movie. So really it was kind of the easiest for me. But I thought the nuance Edward Norton had was fantastic. I thought it was an important movie.
Oh, I mean, this is unquestionably an important movie. So I feel weird putting you on the spot, but you work with so many big names and people who are so awesome and have such mystique about them that let me ask you about working with them. Ed Norton has a reputation of being difficult. I think it's the code word. What was that like working with him?
He was not difficult at all for me. There were, I think, some difficulties between him and Tony Kaye, the director, who I found both of them to be really lovely. I think their processes clashed. Neither of them clashed with me in any way. Tony Kaye, when he was not happy with the final cut of the movie, went to the studio with a rabbi, a priest, and a Buddhist monk, literally, and conferred with the studio execs through them. He would not speak to the studio execs.
It's like a rabbi, priest, and a Buddhist monk walk into a bar.
And walk into
bartender
New Line
says,
Studios, and all hell ensues. And so he's an artist, and he's definitely not a mainstream thinker, and does kind of outrageous stuff. So I can totally see how Edward and him could clash. That wasn't a stretch. This guy's a little wild and certainly not doing stuff the normal way. But Edward Norton, I just did a movie that Edward directed, which will be out later this year, called Motherless Brooklyn. It's awesome.
Based on the book by Jonathan Lethem.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Oh, wow, that's awesome. I'll definitely see that.
Yeah.
Let me take a second to tell you guys about Wix. You know how I always talk about, if you don't like it, build your own Twitter. Well, if you had said a few years ago, if you don't like it, build your own website, you would have sounded crazy. And now you can, very easily, with Wix. If you go to letthatbeyourwelcome.com, you can see the site that we put together for the show and for my book. We did it very easily because what Wix does, it has a bunch of templates, over 500 to choose from, and they've got a drag-and-drop website builder. So you can easily add text, images, videos. It's kind of like if you know how to use PowerPoint, you know how to build a website using Wix. They even have something called ADI, Artificial Design Intelligence. You answer a few simple questions, and they make a website for you. If you go to letthatbeyourwelcome.com, you can see what we did. At the bottom, they give you 10% off any premium plan. And if you don't want to pay for the premium plan, it's free. Over 150 million people have built their website using Wix. And as I said many times, you want to have your own domain name and URL because people are going to Google you, whether on dates or on job interviews, and you want that first result to be something that you put together, and Wix makes that easy, cheap, or free and possible. If you go to betterhelp.com/malice, you can see more about what the site does, and you get 10% off your first month. Here's how it works. BetterHelp is online counseling that offers licensed professional counselors who specialize in issues like depression. I know a lot of you guys are depressed after listening to this show. Can I blame you? No. Anxiety, ditto. Relationships, okay, maybe not for my audience. Sleeping, anger, oh, there's a lot of that with you. So if you go to BetterHelp, they can help you connect the professional counselor in a safe, private, online environment. Everything's confidential, and it is convenient. And 10% off. If you go to betterhelp.com/malice, what happens is you fill out a questionnaire, helps you assess your needs, and they match you with a professional counselor that you love. And if you don't love them, you get a new one. Anytime, at no additional charge. Just go to betterhelp.com/malice to learn more. Now let's get back into it. One of the things that was hard for me when I graduated college was I was scared when I was working in corporate America that I didn't know how to speak corporate, right? Because there's all this code that people try to tell you, and when you're a kid, you don't know it, and you're going to blow up in your face.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of code in Hollywood. Those of us who are not in Hollywood are oblivious to it.
Right.
So can you break down a little bit for it? How do I know if one actor hates another? Like, what would they say? What's the code there?
Oh man, it's going to be so nuanced. Like,
okay.
I think I'd actually have to show it to you.
Okay.
And I think if you saw, I think I almost just got myself in trouble.
See, yeah.
It's very. I mean, this is a very tightrope of a subject we're going to talk about now. If somebody's overly complimentary, that could be a sign that they fucking despise you.
Okay.
I think that's what you're dealing with.
So like complimentary, what? Like he's a genius, he's this, he's that?
I think it would be more base compliments like, God, you look great today. Could just be daggers in your back.
So that kind of passive aggressive, like Stepford Wives stuff.
Yeah. I think that would be closer to what I'd see. Mostly it's fine. Mostly it's people going to work who are, prepared for a 14-hour day, and there's very little, and then you sit around while people are setting up shots and you have time to chat, and that's where you could get cattiness.
If I'm at home watching Tonight Show or Seth Meyers or something, and that actor is in a movie that he or she knows is terrible, what cues can I pick up on to read between the lines?
I would look for more general talk about how hard the cast and crew worked.
Oh.
Versus the quality of the material.
Okay.
If you're hearing somebody talk about how great the quality of the material is, they probably believe in the movie. If you're hearing talk about how
we're all a family,
we all were in this together, we all showed up for 14 hours a day for 56 days straight, and we all, through the mud and the muck and the mire, then their heart might not be behind the material.
So like if someone's setting you up on a date and she's got a great personality, run the other way.
You go.
It's like, we worked hard. Well, I don't care if you worked easy and the movie's great.
Yeah,
that's of no relevance to the product.
Right.
Okay. Was this something that was hard for you to learn? It seems like so Byzantine.
I just didn't really play that game. I think
anyone who says I didn't play that game plays it harder than anyone. I feel in corporate America at least.
I understand that. And I guess I say that, and at the end of the day, it's true. You don't want to insult when you have something that 200 people did work hard on legitimately, and that's the only nice thing you can find to say. You still got to find something nice because you don't want to say that their hard work is worthless, because it's not. It's valid. It's hard work.
Sure.
People put their energy into something. So yeah, I guess I do play that game.
Did you ever see when Courtney Thorne-Smith and Norm Macdonald were on Conan O'Brien talking about her new movie?
No.
Oh, I'm so glad I get to tell you about this. they're talking about her new movie with Carrot Top that's coming out. And Carrot Top is a great sport, and he's also, I think he gets a bad rap because it's like, you make people laugh. Like, how are you a villain? And he was on Stern, and Stern's like, why am I supposed to hate you?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you have props.
I've heard only that he's a nice guy.
Yeah, only positive things. And it's easy to make fun of him. It's like, I don't see you making people laugh. It's like, okay, so it's dopey. Who cares?
Yeah.
The movie's coming, his first movie, and Conan goes to Courtney Thorne-Smith. He goes, what's it called? And Norman Donald goes, Box Office Poison.
And what does she do?
I mean, she wanted to kill herself,
right?
And they're Conan's laughing, losing his mind.
Yeah.
And Courtney goes, actually, it's called Chairman of the Board. And Conan goes, what are you gonna do with that? And Norman goes, yeah, it's spelled Bored.
Oh God, he would have had you, but he's Norm Macdonald.
But then Carrot Top, when he did a Cribs, has a movie theater seat in his house. He goes, that's the seat for the one person who bought the ticket to my movie.
God.
So he has a sense of humor. He's not starving,
right?
You know, so it's good when. How real is it that people are thin-skinned in Hollywood as opposed to still grounded and have a sense of humor about themselves? It's so hard for us on the outside to get that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just comes down to what people are sensitive about. You know, like I personally was very uncomfortable, even though I was morbidly obese, being called fat. That was like a thing where if the word fat, like you could describe my character in a script as fat, but if it was in the dialogue, I didn't want it because it really hurt me. And I got to be honest, my wife, when the first time she called me a lard ass, I was like, oh, you don't know what that does. And she was like,
how many stitches did she have to get?
I mean, I was so affected for about 10 seconds. And then she was like, who cares? I married you.
Yeah. Yeah, I have sex with you.
Yeah, we have children. I don't care. And it kind of made it all vanish. When somebody says something that I've been so afraid of hearing for so long, by the way, she inscribed my wedding ring. You're just going to think she's abusive. And it's the only material object that I give a shit about. And she wrote, eat shit. That was how she inscribed my wedding ring. And it makes me feel so good. And now you can't call me fat. It can't hurt me anymore, which is fucking great. You know what I mean? And I'm certainly less fat than I was, but my weight goes up and down. And when I'm as fat as I'm possibly going to be, you call me fat, it doesn't matter. Cause you know what? My wife called me a lard ass and she fucking loves me and it doesn't matter. So I think I've become less thin skinned, but
that skin's still pretty thick.
Yeah. I think in Hollywood, you're dealing with a lot of superficial stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about how stuff's perceived. And so if somebody says something that is going to set the perception slightly differently in somebody else's mind, it can be upsetting to people.
I think it's also hard for us to understand from the outside how insecure the job makes you because you're getting one paycheck maybe every year.
Yeah.
And it's like a feast or famine. You never know if you're getting another one.
Right.
And then if you don't get another one, the press is going to mock you.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute, if I only had one job and I made $10 million and I never work again, I'm not a loser.
Right. What does it matter?
Right. But the perception is like you're washed up, you're this, you're that.
Yeah.
And how much does that level of fame fuck with your head? Like when you're My Name is Earl, right? Like that's when it was
that
like
was
the
the
peak.
top.
Right. And there's paparazzi and whatever.
Yeah. I'm
sorry about this fly.
No,
Good
it's
Lord.
okay. I feel like he's a part of the show.
Yeah.
He's a troll.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. The My Name is Earl, it didn't fuck me up so much as at the end of My Name is Earl, I really wanted a break. And I was like, I went and rode bicycles for a long time, and then eventually I couldn't do that anymore because we weren't fantastically wealthy, and I had to go back to work. But the fame is kind of more something I would watch out for with my kids, like because they don't really get it. They just know me that I go off to work. And now it's non-existent because it's been 10 years or 10 plus years since I was on a show like that had a lot of acclaim and attention. So it's perfectly fine now.
If there was one actor you would say is kind of someone you emulate, like kind of a role model figure, who would that be?
The Rock.
Oh, Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah.
Have you ever met him?
No.
Why do you like The Rock?
I just like his energy. his energy is amazing, and I aspire to have as much energy as him.
Would you ever want to be like that kind of action star type?
I don't know that I could physically sustain that, but yeah, I mean that would be fucking awesome.
You worked with one of probably my favorite actress, Fairuza Balk.
Yes.
On American History X.
Yes.
Please tell me she's as hot, as cool, and as crazy in person.
Hot, I won't comment on because I have a wife.
Okay, so that's a yes.
Cool, very cool.
Okay.
And crazy's completely subjective.
That's
I think
a yes. Is that the code?
Utterly crazy.
Wait, what's the code in Hollywood for someone who's mental illness? Is it saying that you're crazy as well? Is that the code?
Yes. If you ask, is so-and-so crazy? And I say, I'm crazy, that is a yes.
Is there anyone who you're like really, really excited to work with, or are you jaded at this point?
Yeah. Who am I really, really excited to work with? I don't know. If I had a bucket list, it would have been Scorcese, and I got to work with him. Maybe it would have been Milos Forman.
Okay.
But that ship has sailed. Terrence Malick. I don't know. But I think it in order to work with somebody like that, it's such for me, not being like a leading man, it is such a perfect storm that has to come together for me to get involved with somebody like that. And I've been super lucky in the things that I've done. So I don't really go around going, God, I got to work with one of these guys, But if I had my druthers, it would be somebody like that.
You were on probably my favorite show of all time, which is Twin Peaks.
Yes.
I just tell me everything you can about. I know you have a huge, it's all the secrecy in this NDA. I get it.
Yeah.
But what can you talk about? Because
But I think since it's come out, all of my NDAs are irrelevant now.
Okay.
Right? I got a call from my agent saying, you have a meeting with a casting director. And I kind of was like, a meeting? Like, I mean,
Don't they know who I am?
I've been doing this for 25 years. They don't have to know who I am, but you could send them a link, I don't know.
Goggle it.
And she said, no, this is Lynch's casting director, and this is his process. And I said, what's he doing? Because it was all super hush hush at the time. And she said, they're doing Twin Peaks. They're in production right now. So you just go and meet with this lady. And I said, so based on the meeting with her, he will decide. And she said, he's going to be watching the meeting. So already I'm super intrigued. And I'm like, yes, well, I wouldn't miss this meeting now because this sounds fantastic.
You get an anecdote at the very least.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I get an NDA. I sign the NDA. I go to a meeting. I have a lovely conversation with a woman about my children and my life. And the meeting is filmed, and I leave, and...
You knew it was being filmed?
I mean, I could see the camera.
Oh, okay, right, okay.
I mean, I didn't see a light,
sure,
but I saw a camera, and I assumed that's how he's watching it. I don't know if he's in the other room or he's being sent a tape. And then the next day, I got a call saying, they want you to do an episode of Twin Peaks. You work this day. And I said, well, I got to read it first. Like, this guy, I don't know what the hell it could be. Maybe I'm uncomfortable with the material. And they said, no, you don't really get to read it, but do you want to do it? And I said, I have to read it. Tell them I have to read it. And so, they said, okay, somebody will be at your house today at 5 p.m. and you'll read it. Here's another NDA. So I had to sign another NDA. Then a person came to my house with a third NDA that I signed. And I was shown pieces of paper with just the words that I have to say written out. Nothing else.
Like CIA.
Yes.
Everything redacted. Yeah.
Everything, but not even redacted. Like somebody just rewrote it on other paper. But it would have been redacted.
Yeah.
But then, they didn't want you to even infer what anybody else was saying. And so I read it and I thought there's nothing too awful here. Or, I always wonder, what will my kids think of this one day? Not that they can watch much of what I've been in. My adult kids could, but one day, Wolf of Wall Street, I had to sign a nudity clause saying I'll do nudity for this because it's Martin Scorsese and you do nudity if you want you to. But then during the the orgy scenes, I worked very hard to not be participating in the orgy, just because I don't think my kids need to see that ever. That was it, you know.
Were you nude though, filming the orgies?
No,
Okay.
I pitched, hey, in the middle of this orgy, what if I'm just asleep, fully dressed?
Okay.
That's funny. Or what if I'm playing cards with somebody or reading a book? And he liked those ideas, and that's what I got to do, which I was so relieved. So I have to read this stuff, and I read it, and it was all perfectly straightforward and fine. No nudity, nothing too vulgar, and not that I'm against that. I'm perfectly for it. I want to look at vulgar stuff, but I don't want my children to see me in it. And it was, and then I just said, yeah, I'll do it. And I showed up on set and got to see what the other people were going to say, which was fascinating. And he chain smoked, which I loved, indoors in California, which is super like anarchist move.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it took a day to shoot, and that was it. It was awesome. And I heard that nobody had read the script, that, you know, if they say these are the scenes we're going to shoot tomorrow, then they get to go to a building and read those scenes, but nobody read the whole script.
What was it like? What's David Lynch's like energy in person? Is it like, oh, are you going to say I'm crazy?
Well, you know, I have strange energy, Michael. My energy is kind of odd. You know, no, he's absolutely everything you would want him to be.
Okay.
Absolutely. Like, I couldn't do justice by trying to describe him. Anything your mind could want him to be, he is for real.
So that's the thing. When you look at someone like that, you wonder, what were you like in junior high?
Yeah.
Like when you're 14 and you're like being David Lynch, but you're not David Lynch yet. It's just like,
I always wonder that too. Does that kind of stuff develop as somebody accrues power and freedom, or is that just them? I don't know.
Does Hollywood attract crazy people, or does it make them crazy, or is it a mix?
I think fame for young people can be really tough. I never had the level of fame that could make you crazy. But I think when you have a child, basically, or an underage person who becomes so famous that they have people chasing them and people fainting over them and all of that, it can wear on you. And then some people deal with it really well and some people don't.
What was it like working with Leo? I mean, he's one of these Ken dolls. Does he look like superhumanly good looking in person?
He is a good looking man.
Is it like weird? Okay.
I mean, weird. You're a good looking man.
Yeah. The point is, there's some people when you see them walking down the street, like you were saying, growing up a kid, it's like, I have no idea what your life was like. Because your life, just based on how you look, male or female, is a completely different situation.
I don't see him as that.
Okay.
Though. I don't see him as a Ken doll type.
Okay.
I see him as like a good looking version of a normal person who happens to be such a talented actor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's very different.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's different than there are a subset of human beings who are so aesthetically good looking that they don't have to work for stuff. And I think Leo always had to work for stuff.
Scorcese, like, holy shit, right? Like, how did you get that call? I mean, were you jumping up and down?
Yeah, I was in Canada shooting a really small budgeted movie and wondering what I was going to do next and having no plans, and then got the call of like, well, you're going to be in New York for 7 months doing a movie with him, and it was a big deal.
And that was the movie. I mean, as you're filming it, do you know this is going to be huge?
No, I mean, I knew it would be good because it's Scorcese, but I also thought some of the stuff we kind of touched on in the movie was going to be so radical or so vulgar even that it would take people out of it. I did think like, well, you know, there's 2 fucking orgies that are shot as orgies that aren't, you know, they're not alluded to. They're fucking full orgies. And so, you know, you never know who's that could upset people.
I want to take a second to tell you about a sponsor near and dear to my body, Heshi Socks. HESHI Socks.com. And if you go to HeshiSocks.com and put promo code WELCOME30, you get 30% off. These socks are awesome. I wear them. They're my house socks. They're cushioned or cushioned with stabilizing arch support and stay-up technology. You can wear them with work. You can wear them at the gym. They've got the fashion socks. They've got the ankle socks. They got the basics. And Welcome 30 for the promo code at heshysocks.com gives you 30% off your entire order. You're going for a hike, stuck in the office. They have this treatment to the socks so your feet don't smell. Y'all are disgusting, but at least your feet won't smell disgusting, and they'll look nice because they're covered with Heshi, Heshi socks.com. Motherless Brooklyn. Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
So when you're doing a script based on a book,
Yeah.
do you read both, or are you worried that the book will influence the script too much, so you just stick to the script?
The other one that I did this on was Cold Mountain. Cold Mountain was based on a book, and right away, Anthony Minghella sat down with people and said, "You got to read the book," but then pulled me aside and said, "You're the one person who I don't want to read the book because your character is kind of living in a different universe than everybody else, and so." Nothing that I want people to understand from the book has anything to do with what you're going to be doing. So I don't want you in any of the meetings to talk about historical accuracy or any of that. So I kind of didn't read that really beautiful book until after the movie. And I kind of wished I had, but that's what Anthony Minghella told me to do. So that's what I did. Motherless Brooklyn, the book is set in the 90s. And Edward Norton kind of reimagines it, set in the 50s.
Oh, okay.
With the city planner, who I'm blanking on his name, not Monroe.
The power broker, Moses.
Moses.
Yeah.
So he's basically our main bad guy, and I think that thematically it's very true to the book. But it is a whole new...
Robert Moses, yeah.
Yeah, Robert Moses, that's right, who was a pretty bad guy.
Very evil person.
Yeah. And so he's the main antagonist. And I think Edward did such a wonderful job of placing that story in another time period. But the book, if you want, a perfect rendition of the book, that's not what we did.
I mean, that is such like a, I don't know about classic, but it's certainly got a huge audience, and that people feel like emotionally attached to that book. Is that a concern? Like, are people gonna, when you're dealing with something like that?
I watched the movie, man, and I think it's so good that I don't think that'll matter. It might to people who are diehards for the book. But I think the movie is pretty great.
And I noticed you didn't talk about how hard you worked, so that's telling me that actually is a good product.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. What's it? How psychologically do you deal with not knowing if the phone's going to ring for another gig?
I find stuff to do.
Okay.
And so, I love martial arts. I did jiu-jitsu for a long time, Muay Thai kickboxing. I train something now called SIOC, which is a Filipino martial arts system that's very heavy into mindset and combatives. And so I just take my energy and try to focus it on stuff that will keep me busy during the downtime between jobs.
You were also on a show with Hugh Laurie.
Yes.
Who, he's also on what I would regard as the best comedy of all time, Veep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's now that it ended, I think it's the best comedy of all time.
I agree. I think I read Hugh Laurie even saying that he thought it was the best of all time.
Oh, wow.
On Twitter, yeah.
He's amazing on that show. He's amazing in House.
Yeah.
Please tell me he's an awesome guy.
Awesome guy.
Okay.
Awesome guy.
With that weird accent.
Well, yeah. I met him a couple weeks before we started shooting, and during shooting of the first episode, we rode home together after work, and he suddenly was a different person. He was this bizarre British person. and I actually thought he was doing a bit. He wanted to listen to jazz music, and he was speaking in this accent, and I was like, what the fuck is this guy doing? It was so weird, and I was so thrown off. And it wasn't for like 3 days that I realized he's British. And it wasn't a bit.
Isn't he Welsh?
Whatever.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same island, right? At least. Sure. But it was so bizarre hearing him speak with his natural accent. And it was just the first time he had dropped the character of what we were doing and was just like after work being a dude. I was like, what the fuck
It's so
is with
because
this guy?
there have been times when you hear a cover of a song and then you hear the original and you think the original's the cover because you heard it second.
Yeah.
So same thing here. You hear him
thing.
talk and you think, why is this guy doing this weird fucking UK accent?
Yeah,
And
this
it's
cartoonish fake UK accent. It was so, I was like insulted because I was like, he didn't even work on it that hard. And he's doing this cheap bit in the car on the way home and like not even telling me why he's doing it. I was really thrown off, but it was after a very long day. But it took me 3 days to remember that he is actually British.
I mean, well, what's his personality like as a guy?
He's constantly telling jokes.
Oh,
Yeah, he's very funny, very, very witty, and fun, interested in stuff.
so when you're doing these 14-hour days, how much of it is actually working? How much is just sitting around going nuts?
I mean, would you consider rehearsal actually working?
Of course.
Or you mean just cameras rolling?
No, I consider rehearsal work, absolutely.
Okay. 60-40 not working.
Okay.
Yeah. 60-40 sitting around.
I mean, that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
So Jesus Christ, I don't know why.
It's an aggressive fly.
It is an aggressive fly. Maybe you're made out of meat or something.
Yeah,
Well, no,
I am.
it says eat shit. Maybe it smells the shit.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's in here.
I mean, you are someone who doesn't seem like you like sitting on your ass, right? You have a lot of energy.
Yeah.
What do you do with all that time, though?
I usually read.
Okay.
Yeah. That's typically what I do. I used to play Brick Breaker on my BlackBerry, but somebody banned Blackberries from the universe, and so that's gone.
Okay.
Yeah. But now I just read. I have a lot of time to read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is it the kind, like, what kind of books, what's your favorite genre?
I like philosophy.
Okay.
Philosophy I'm very interested in. I am very interested, and I sometimes like to justify it by or rationalize it by saying that it could be useful to a character one day to figure out the way people think.
Sure.
That I just find fascinating. I'm very interested in why people think differently than other people, and how different people can have different realities. Truly,
One of my favorite things is having a bad time. Like, you go to a restaurant, they seat you late, the waiter's rude, the food comes late, it's cold, and after a while you realize, okay, I'm in a sketch.
right?
And it's like, let's see how far this is going to go. And you appreciate on that level because you remember a great meal. You don't remember a mediocre meal.
Right.
But if this is terrible, I love it. And it's just like, and then you turn to your friend, you're like, let's just see where this goes. Have you ever been, without naming the role, have you ever been involved in a film or show where it's just a train wreck and it just gets worse and worse?
Yes.
And walk me through that, what that's like psychologically.
The one, and I would rather not say what it was, but the thing I can remember is a script that was interesting, hard R, that we start rehearsing and start to get some rewrites, and it's becoming a softer R. And then on day one of shooting, we're told it has to be a PG-13 movie, which is a lot different.
Yeah.
And so you start shooting it, and
by hard R, you don't mean the N-word. You mean rated R or rated PG-13.
right, hard R. Okay, yes, I just got what you were saying. Hard R is like, I don't know what it is, but it's like if maybe full frontal nudity
For
gets
men,
you a hard R or something.
Right, yeah.
And
There's no question it's going to be an R.
right.
Yes.
And then a soft R is like, did they say fuck too many
Right.
times? Then it becomes questionable. I think that's how I envision it. And so suddenly we're doing a different movie now because they've stripped it of all this kind of exciting stuff. Not that I would have had to be nude because
Sure.
nobody wants to see that, but there was something about that in there. And sometimes I think that can be important to a story. And if you just take out one aspect of it, and by the time we were done, I didn't know what we were doing anymore. Like it had just changed so much that I truly had no idea of what we were
Why
doing.
is there a robot here?
Yeah. Yeah. Truly. Like this has not, and something, there was some aspect in the script that when we first sat down, we were shown a physical thing that was going to be important to the script. and by the end it was going to be CGI, and we were all kind of like looking at nothing with no idea of what it was going to look like. And it was fascinating because it starts out as frustrating, and it's at a certain point, if you fight it, it's going to be miserable. And if you just go, well, it's interesting.
It's like a bad trip. You're like, all right, I'm doing this. I'm here. I got to write it out.
Lean into it.
Yeah. Oh my God. Did you ever end up watching the product?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't really watch any of it because I guess that would be one of the ones that I could watch and kind of be entertained by. But I tend to, the few times I've watched playback or even something, I get hypercritical and wonder why I didn't do something differently. And at that point, I can't change it. So I've just given up watching stuff.
I've co-authored books with a few people. And for me, as a result of that, whenever I read like a celebrity biography, I can't not read it as an editor because I see all these mistakes and I'm like, oh, this is, so amateurish, this and that. The one that I used this example before, and it drives me absolutely batshit. I read Pat Benatar's autobiography.
Okay.
And there's one sentence where she mentions that in junior high, she had a pet monkey. And it's like, if you have a pet monkey every day, there's a problem with this fucking monkey in my house. And the anecdotes there would be a full book because they are the worst pets. They're crazy. What's it like? Are you the crazy monkey girl at school? She doesn't get into it. It drives me crazy.
And just
one sentence. I had a monkey. So for you, is it tough when you're watching films when you see like acting, you're like, oh, this is, they're doing things wrong? Not even for yourself, for other people.
I'm not super critical. I mean, I think art is pretty subjective.
Sure.
And so, I think I can sometimes see laziness.
Okay.
But I think then it's just a choice. If you are being lazy, you're choosing to be lazy. And so, and I think no choice is laziness. You know what I mean? So there's just stuff where, I find my kids to be obsessed with things that I would call lazy acting or lazy creativity, my younger children, and I just don't watch it because I don't get anything stimulating out of it.
I mean, why do you think you have lasted this long and have this many credits under your belt as opposed to other people? I mean, I don't think success is an accident. Right. And I don't think constantly getting those phone calls is an accident.
Yeah. I don't know. I really enjoy doing what I do. I work hard. I try to show up on time. I know my material from my point of view, and I'm very open to the director's point of view. And I do believe that anything I'm asked to do from a director, I should attempt to do, because I think any human being is capable of doing anything in any number of different ways. So that to the point of laziness, I would say, like, if you hear, sometimes in maybe something mocking Hollywood, and you hear an actor saying, my character wouldn't do such and such. Yeah, I think you can figure out a perspective where your character would do that. It's got to be possible. If there are infinite universes and all of that, then posit infinite potential reactions that your character would
maybe
make.
They're having a bad day.
Sure.
Maybe their mom just died.
Whatever.
Right?
You didn't have coffee today.
Yeah.
You could put any reason to it, but to find that reason so that you can make what the director's asking you to do real. That's what I try to do. And I will say it can be difficult in television because you kind of establish the character and mannerisms and whatnot in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then you get different directors for every episode. Basically, they kind of rotate, but you could have My Name is Earl. We probably had 10 different directors, and I never noticed it on My Name is Earl because the creator was always there and kind of watching out to make sure it was the universe he created. But on other TV, you get to a director deep into it, and the guy wants to put his own swing on it, and it's like difficult because we've established certain things and now we're going to go in a different direction, and that can be hard. And I still will try to do what they're asking me to do, you know what I mean, and how to rationalize it for myself and for whatever character I've come up with.
You worked with so many people over the years. There must have been times where you work with someone you absolutely hate on some visceral level, right? So how do you...
I'm a hateable guy.
Oh, so the people hate you?
No.
Oh, yeah. That's a callback.
Yeah.
How do you... when you're like when you're acting with someone who you hate and you have to make that eye contact and really emotionally connect with them, but meanwhile you're like, I wish you got hit by a car or whatever. Like how do you like keep a straight face and you know what I mean? Like how do you do that?
Yeah. I don't know that I've ever had. There's definitely I have been in scenes with people that I like less than scenes with other people, and so I think it's just trying to believe as much as I possibly can believe that when I'm communicating to somebody in a scene, they are the character versus the actual person. I think that's the only way I've been able to pull that off. Maybe you could watch something I've done and say, I know you hated this person, you know, like in a love scene.
One of the things that I would think would be the hardest to do, and this is me talking as a complete amateur, when you're filming things, you're not filming them in the order of the script.
Right.
So it would seem like it'd be very confusing because something's, you know, from 2/3 of the story as opposed to beginning and you're not filling them chronologically. Yeah. Is that just the director's job to kind of emotionally ground you in the scene, or how do you manage that?
Yeah, because
I couldn't. I'm sorry, just because when I write, I don't know that I could write not in order.
Sure,
it would fuck with my head.
Yeah, there's a script supervisor who that's pretty much their job. Their job is to make sure you've gotten everything you need to get in the scene, but also that what you're doing in that scene doesn't contradict something that it shouldn't be contradicting. So that can get super tricky. I mean, there can be movies where it's like mathematical equations of how these scenes fit together, and if you fuck up one thing, it will make something wrong, and so that can get very tricky. But there's a person with a job to make sure that that's done right.
If there was one actor you would say is kind of someone you emulate, like kind of a role model figure, who would that be?
Gonzo from the Muppets.
What about Gonzo do you like?
I just think he embodied anarchism in the right way.
Do you think that he kind of gets short shrift because of his offstage antics?
Probably, but I wouldn't judge him on that. You know, what he puts forth, I think, is really positive. One
of the things that we all think about regarding Hollywood is like when the cameras are off, all this complete batshit stuff that happens and people acting like complete loons. Yeah. I'm sure you've been privy to seeing what's the craziest things you've seen happen on a set?
On a set?
Or even not on a set. Let's say a crazy Hollywood party where someone's taking a shit on the floor.
Oh, God, I wish that would have been so fun. That would have been like early 90s parties, right?
When you saw Soundgarden.
Right. In Soundgarden. I never saw somebody shit on the floor. I don't know.
Are you just numb to it at this point?
I'm not numb to it. I'm really so far removed from
the scene,
from the idea of going to a party exhausts me right now. I have children in college, Michael. I'm married, and like, you know, if my wife says we have to go to a PTA meeting, I'm too tired and my hip hurts. You know what I mean?
Stands for panic attack.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, there was definitely a point prior to having kids and a wife that I would go to parties, but that is a long time ago. And you know, I think that cell phones ruined nightlife.
Oh, yeah.
And so
because then it's
all the stuff that that was happening prior to cell phones doesn't happen at all anymore. And I think what you see from YouTube celebrities or Instagram celebrities is an attempt to recreate that sometimes, or whatever they think that was, and to exist that way. But the reality is, when you're going to work for 14 hours, you don't really have energy to go and do that at night.
Right.
You know, maybe on the weekends.
I know one party you went to. Yeah. You were at Michael Jackson's house.
I was.
So I want to hear that whole story.
I was friends with one of his godkids, and me and a couple friends went to his house for a weekend, and he wasn't there yet. We arrived knowing he was going to come, but he wasn't there.
What's it like when you pull up? Is it like an amusement park?
I signed an NDA at the guard gate. But I'm assuming that we're beyond that now.
Okay.
There's a guard gate, you sign an NDA, and then as you pull in, there are kind of hills. There were hills with wooden cutouts of kids, similar to It's a Small World at Disneyland, on the hills. And then you get in and it looked like something out of Disneyland. It looked like a magical place. We were kind of, late teen, early 20 guys who like to drink and smoke cigarettes and stuff. And we went in and there was a hard no smoking rule, no alcohol rule. And in order to smoke a cigarette, you had to go up on the hill. You had some fire department and you had to have a fireman watch you smoke a cigarette, which, we did that for a couple hours and then we were starting to go like, this is fucked up. We got to get out of here. People watching us smoke. This is crazy. Then he came and we went to a teepee to have
hold
dinner.
on. Michael Jackson shows up.
Yeah.
What's that like? What does he look like in
You're
person?
kind of notified.
Okay, Michael's coming.
He's here.
Yeah.
Come, we're going to greet him. You're going to come and say hello. And we go into his home and say hello to him. And it's like meeting somebody of royalty.
Is he dressed like in sweatpants or what? Is he in his Nazi uniform? What's he wearing?
I think he was in a toned down version of what you would see him in a music video. It wasn't quite as glittery, but it was like clearly the same designer.
Okay.
And we then go to a teepee for dinner. And
Wait, you weren't like, holy shit, it's Michael Jackson? Or you were like, oh shit, that's Michael Jackson?
I mean, I remember thinking he was bigger than I had imagined him.
Okay.
He was broader and taller and had larger hands.
Okay.
I had always imagined him as a very small, slight guy. And that was my thought, was like, he's a dude.
Okay.
At dinner, we kind of brought up like, hey, listen, going to the fire department to smoke, it's like, we're not going to burn your house down. And he was like, oh, you do whatever you want. And we said, oh, do you think we could get some beers too? And he said, there are no rules in Neverland. Wow. There are no rules in Neverland. And then
it's like The Purge.
Yeah.
Neverland, yes. The Purge.
Yes. And then we had a raucous night with him. And
we started stabbing each other.
Right. Yeah. Throwing shit. And we were like, well, now we will set fire to your house.
Yeah. As you agreed.
Yeah. No rules in Neverland. And we got drunk and then got freaked out and left.
Wait, what freaked you out? The vibe?
Well, it would be, imagine if you were going to sleep in the middle of It's a Small World.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what it felt like. And we're young guys who are used to going to nightclubs and suddenly we're like drunk at It's a Small World and we get the fuck out of there. Me and one of my friends left in the night.
How did you leave though? You can't call an Uber.
No, we drove there.
Oh, okay. You drove drunk?
No, my friend drove.
Drunk.
My friend drove. He was still somehow sober.
Yeah, it's magic.
Yeah, what's the statute?
The magic of Neverland is
I didn't drive.
The magic of Neverland is it's not.
There's no rules.
And there's no drunk driving.
Right.
It's magic.
Once you drive through the gates, you're no longer drunk.
Yeah, that's beautiful. All right, we're running out of time.
Okay.
What was your favorite part of the interview?
My welcome.